Council Committee Appointments, Liaison Reports, AB 1234 reporting, and openness and negotiations. Ms. Semeta.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to ask for some indulgence tonight because I'm going to provide a little bit longer report than I usually do, but I think it's really important. In my role as the SCAG representative for our city, at the risk of being repetitive, but for the sake of clarity, I want to give some background again on the RHNA determination process that SCAG has been going through this last year. The state at this point has proposed that the RHNA allocation for the entire SCAG region be the unattainable 1.3 million units. So for the past year, the RHNA subcommittee and the Community Economic and Human Development Committee have been meeting almost monthly, parsing through complicated formulas. These formulas included options to consider like proximity to jobs, access to transportation, available land to build upon, and projected household growth. Additionally, public meetings were held throughout the SCAG region to discuss and obtain public input on that methodology. All of this input included the opportunity for individual jurisdictions to use estimation calculation tools provided by SCAG to ascertain the impacts of those methodologies on their city. The jurisdictions each had the opportunity to provide suggestions for changing those proposed formulas, and many of us, including Huntington Beach, did. At the end of the year-long process, SCAG staff proposed a final methodology to be voted upon November 7th by the Regional Council, where I serve as your voting member. Although we continue to object to the $1.3 million regional allocation, our city and the other Orange County cities were prepared to vote in favor of what appeared to be a fair, equitable formula for distribution based upon reasonable factors. Bear in mind, with each change to the proposed methodology options throughout the process, SCAG staff spent time crunching the numbers, applying the different factors, so at the time the Regional Council voted on it, it had been thoroughly vetted and analyzed for its impacts and rationale as a reasonable methodology. Unfortunately, at the 11th hour, after ignoring multiple opportunities to give input, Riverside and Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles got together to craft a new methodology that forced a large portion of the distribution onto Orange County. The day of the meeting, 11 of the 14 Los Angeles City Council members, who were all able to cast votes due to their city's size, showed up to vote against our smaller county. As far as I know, not one of those council members had ever even bothered to come to one of our meetings before. San Bernardino County also went along with the deal because it benefited them. To understand the magnitude of the shift of tens of thousands of units onto Orange County, let me give you some numbers. Riverside was originally expected to get 235,000 units. That was reduced down to 165,000. San Bernardino was to receive 182 units. That was reduced down to 135. But Orange County, which was to receive 108 units, had ours increased to 182,000. Since I've become the SCAG rep for the city, I have made it a priority to interact closely with staff and have urged that we make our city's voice a part of the dialogue as the RHNA methodology has been considered this last year. I want to thank Jennifer Villasenor for reacting quickly and conferring with our city attorney's office to produce a comment letter despite the very late notice that happened on the 7th. So we were one of the few jurisdictions who had an opportunity to comment before the vote was taken. Because the LA Riverside contingent orchestrated the last-minute reversal, they had time to line up multiple comment letters and multiple public comment speakers for the meeting. Orange County, kept in the dark until the last minute, did not. One of the troubling aspects was that SCAG board assisted in stacking the deck against Orange County by lining up and calling LA and Riverside mayors and other speakers to speak in favor. To my recollection, only 2 Orange County speakers were allowed to speak before the chair cut off debate and called for the vote. Or called for motions and then the vote, I should say. Councilmember Peggy Wang of Yorba Linda did a great job arguing our case. I was furiously waving my card but was not called upon. I did express my opinion to the Regional Council Chair and SCAG Executive Director after the meeting about the unfairness of the process, but of course it was too late. The reason why the process is so troubling is that in essence the public was cut out of the process. The public did not receive sufficient notice to respond and comment on the newest methodology. And our democratic process in this country is designed to allow for that input. But putting aside the unfairness of the process, the most egregious problem is that the new methodology was not fully analyzed for its impacts by SCAG staff. More problematic, the new method fails to follow the law because it removes local input and growth forecast data. So all the time that our staff and staff from other cities spent analyzing and providing data regarding the realities of our own individual jurisdictions in terms of our ability to build housing was thrown out the window. The current methodology ignores very real constraints that coastal cities who must cope with, things that we must cope with, such as obtaining coastal commission approvals and lack of available land. All that was ignored. Later on the consent agenda, staff will provide some next steps of what we do next in this situation. And I know that the public and our residents have stayed engaged in this process, and you're getting weary, and I understand that, but I urge you to stay engaged. Concurrently with this whole RENA process, SCAG is also preparing the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Communities Strategy. And Julie Toledo, if you would go ahead and put that slide up. They've released the draft plan of that, and so the public input process is beginning now on that. And so here I put up the dates, or Julie's putting up the dates for you all so you can attend one of the public meetings. So that's all I have.